Barbara, please take my hand. Just water today, team. That being said, got some fancy new plates here, but I left my paintbrush inside. Un memento, so they say. Un memento. I think it's around here somewhere. 1 second, team. 1 second. Guys, these are bamboo plates. They're quite nice, but I've got the feeling that they'll soak up moisture really fast. So we will see. They feel dry, and so I think they'll take the acrylic paint's moisture much too fast, but there's one good way to find out, and that's by having a go. So we're going to find out on our own terms. Kicking off today with Naples yellow and white. Oh, that's so exciting. Pretty mundane start, but it'll be alright. And I hope wherever you guys are in the world, you're looking after yourselves. I got these pants yesterday at an op shop. Hey, Pink. These pants are slightly red, if you can tell. Someone put them through the wash with some red clothing. But honestly, I think that salmon-y touch to them actually improves them, if anything. So, that's all good by me. Here we go. Here we are. And I can't remember if I said it now. Hey, Pink. Lost my trail of thought. It doesn't look like it's taking the moisture out of it yet, but that might be famous last words. Maybe speaking way too soon. Dun, 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 dun. Da, 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 da. Huh. Okay, so that's good, Pink, so I'm just losing my mind. Hello, is that McLounge? McLounge. It's like if Ronald McDonald moved into interior design. We're going to call it the McLounge. It's going to be famous. Everyone's going to want one. There'll be a machine in the corner that produces Big Macs. I don't know. I'm not on the design team. The McLounge. Trademark that, yeah, get on it straight away. Hey, Ellie Jade, how you doing? Welcome on in. We're back on the girl and the dog. So if you've got that eye that can see things from a mile off, I was actually just recording a reel, honestly, already famous. Someone made a comment about this coffee cup here being really either really small or maybe a giant. Now, I'm no giant, so this is a really small cup. So I brought out another yellow cup, which was given to me by a lovely lady called Tennille, who I worked in a restaurant with in Papanui, Christchurch, New Zealand. And she gave me that cup. So I brought out that cup, which is a regular sized cup for scale. So you know that actually, okay. But I like espresso shots, so I use the small cups for espressos. Hello, Indigo. That's what she said. She said, you're always smiling, so I got you a cup with a smile on it. And I like it, because sometimes I'm not always smiling. But I've got a cup that reminds me that there's people out there in the world who, for them, I was the person who always was. So, get some paint on me. That's pretty special. I like the cup. It's one of my favourites. And hey, Susie, how we doing? Nay? Yeah. So you'll see quite subtly at this stage. I'll show you the picture again. This is it here. So we've got the girl's face here, the eye and the texture of the hair. So if you look up here, where we're really putting a lot of attention is in that texture within the hair. Because there's actually not a lot of eyes, ears, mouths to actually construct the face from. The dog itself, you can see that I've focused most of the ultramarine blues down here. So it's not just a black and white dog. That would be, I don't want to say boring, but we want to build out those blues, and you can see the deep purples in there as well. That's going to add a lot of the fun element to it. Just spin you slightly there. There we go. Yeah. So we'll keep building out the hair, but more importantly than actually capturing, oh my God, look, it's a whole head of hair, we want to make sure we capture the feeling and the texture of, in this case, she's got that brown hair with blonde highlights or sun-kissed hair, and she's come out of the ocean. She's been out of it for maybe 10, 20 minutes, and you know how you have that matted, like salty, wet feel, but you're not dry yet? It's that mixture, it's that beachy feel. We want to get that. And thanks, Indigo. Appreciate you. This plate's working quite well, actually. It's not going dry on the bamboo like I thought it might. So, be interesting to see how that goes. Yeah. But the most important thing, especially with the brush strokes we add, we don't want to get hung up on the idea that we have to draw the eye, see the dog, capture the dog's eye, etc. This is not what's going to make this picture. What's going to make this picture is us actually just capturing the shapes and the feel of the image. And even if the image itself doesn't have the symbols or the icons we'd like in it, like eyes and ears and mouths and things, we'll capture the feeling of it. Because this is for a client, in this case, that knows this image really, really well. So imagine that you did have quite an intimate connection with this image. Well, if you had an intimate connection with that image, think about the fact of how she would be able to recognize all the brushstrokes and the paintings more than, say, a stranger who didn't know the image would be able to. So that's what we're after. And the cleanness is actually a bit of a trick. Who said that? Indigo. Because I got about 3 blotches of paint yesterday on that darker grey shirt, which is a disaster on one hand because I really like that shirt, but it's okay. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's unfortunate. I'm going to bring this nose of the dog here. I've paused it here. It needs to come out further than what I've currently acknowledged. I made the nose just a little bit stout there. That's okay. Good thing is we can fix it straight away. Look, each artist to their own. Each artist to their own. Typically, if you do really, really detailed realism work, it can be nice to have that release, to not have to be controlled both on the canvas and for yourself. It's nice to actually separate the two. But for me, my work's so chaotic that it's really nice to control the elements that aren't on the work. So me, the palette, where the paint goes. So I think that's just, I think the only question there that matters is where do you personally vie for control? Where do you pursue it so you can get chaos in other areas? I think some artists run off and try and remove all control from the picture, lose it all and give way to the chaos, but I don't think you truly can. I think it's in the human psyche to want that control, to try and find it, and like, you'd be like, well, what about this artist? Usually when you find an artist who you believe goes full chaos mode, they've actually found control in saying things must always be chaos and there can't be anything but chaos. And so every time control tries to show up, they slap it down and produce chaos instead. It sounds like you're controlling the fact that everything has to be random. Like, would you consider it chaos if every time a decision came up, the decision was made with a coin or a dice? And you'd say, well, yeah, that's random. Random, but is it chaos? Now we know for a fact, in amongst this chaos, that there's a 50% chance, or what is it, a 16 or 17.7, 16.5% chance that it's always going to be something. So you're telling me that the probability says that in your element of chaos, that there's a 50% chance that the result I want is going to happen. That doesn't sound like chaos. Chaos is unpredictable, unguessable. You can't form a probability on chaos only to know that it's going to be chaos. As soon as we talk probabilities, we're talking about control. And so if an artist inherently only seeks chaos, they fail to find it and actually turn the whole thing into another form of control. So there's an accepting element rather than actually trying to control the element. Perfectionist in life. There you go. So if you're a perfectionist in life, and this is actually quite a common psychological thing. When you're a perfectionist in life, in your hobbies, sometimes you pursue outright chaos. If you work at a desk job, sometimes you want to break away, skydive, mountain bike, tramp. A lot of people who work in cities love to go out and go tramping and things. This here is the, I think, inherently as humans, whether you call it a pursuit of control or a pursuit of balance, we're after it in some way. Pursuit of are we after balance, or are we after balance, or are we after a control over balance? I don't know. Humans are crazy. The song by Billy Carrington. If you know Billy Carrington, he's a country singer. If you don't like country music, you won't like the song. If you do like country music and you haven't heard of him, you may like this song. It's called People Are Crazy. And basically, he meets an old man in a bar and they have a conversation. And during that conversation, they really hit it off. You know, they're really vulnerable and open and exposed to each other. And then years later, the country singer finds out the man left his entire will to him. He says people are crazy. It's the mantra of it. And people are crazy. I think we're all innately crazy. We're able to hide it sometimes, control it, but at a fundamental level, I think we're just all looking for someone or some way or something to accept our craziness. I see a million posts about it on Instagram and TikTok about people finding the love of their life, not because they were some glorious person or some amazing rock star in some way, but because they were the person who could accept all of their crazy. And it doesn't have to be a person. I think we find ways to unleash our crazy, like with hiking. Going out there into the wilderness and being lost in your thoughts for 8-9 hours, days on end. that's embodying or nourishing your own crazy. That's I like that. And hey Steve, how we doing? You know what, John? You know what's really funny? I was actually on why would I forget the name of this? I was on the internet last night because I found the brand of the shorts, and I was looking through their other products, and I couldn't find anything that I liked as much as the shorts, but I was having a look anyway. It's funny actually. It's a New Zealand brand. I didn't expect that. And Cindy, you know the song? Perfect. People Are Crazy by Billy Currington. You see, that's one of the songs where I like it now, but I was listening to that song back when I was 16, 17. You know, that was my tune. I loved that song. I felt like that guy was alluding to something in a country song that other people in my life at that time weren't actually saying. And I think we find that sometimes. The world's more connected today, but if you think back to like 2010, 2005, a lot of us found connection and belonging in songs because there may not have been people around us. And I only got a phone when I was 13, and it could only call and text if I had the person. There wasn't scrolling or finding people online. So we were very much, and I'll speak for almost all of us here, we were by ourselves, and we were figuring out who we were or what was okay about who we were, sometimes just by music. And the power songs had at that time to tell us stories and to make certain emotions we felt okay, that was incredibly powerful. Does it have that same tool today? I don't think music serves that same purpose anymore now that we can connect via social media, and you can actually find people and actually look at their feeds and see what lives they're living and be like, these feelings I have here, this viewpoint I have here, this person I want to be, this is okay. That's a big deal, like when I was younger in high school, things like depression or anxiety, these style things, they weren't things that anyone had or could talk about in high school. If you had anything wrong with you other than being a good kid, you were sick and you needed to see a doctor and be fixed. And there was no grey area on that. It was black and white. There was a problem with you that needed to be rectified. And now we're 15 years on from that environment. And of course, all high school kids have their own troubles, going the whole way back to, 50 years ago where, teachers would hit children and bully children and things. We've left that environment behind, but it's interesting looking back on my own schooling environment, and then today, where now we accept things like depression, anxiety, these elements, and even joking forms. No one was able to make lighthearted jokes about a condition they may suffer from back in high school when I was there. That would be too revealing, too exposing. But now we're not, I don't want to say as worried about it, but we're more open about it, and we're willing to be ourselves. And I think that's a direct result from the music we could listen to, from the connection we've formed on social media. Social media, I don't believe, some of it did cause mental illnesses in certain ways, but I think what social media did was it made us realize that we didn't need to suppress, stifle, and crush certain feelings that made us who we were. We were actually able to accept them because we could see examples of people who had grown up, accepted, or lived with them. And that was a big deal. So, really important. Anyway, after 50 years on this planet, I've realized people are crazy, so it rings true. See, perhaps not quite as much, but the power of that music, yeah, I agree. Although, it's hard not to get romantic, John, when you look back on times like Freddie Mercury, when they were creating those songs they were making, and he actually mentioned himself that this was going to be the golden age of music, and he felt that for a different reason though. He felt that because he said, computers and technology is going to get to a stage where we won't actually make the music, it'll make itself, and it will take the creativity out of it. And so that's what he was worried about. But I think music still, it's not like humans just disappeared or changed. We're still here. We still feel the same emotions. I think just at that point in time, like specifically Freddie Mercury's point in time, you're looking at it being the only way to get an emotion out there to the masses. A book's one way, but not everyone was reading the books, but everyone was hearing the radio. That was a big deal. I always had anxiety, but didn't realize that it was what it was until I read about it on the internet. Yeah. So what happened is you just pushed it on down and thought, that's not something I ever want to talk to anyone about ever, because that's not normal. And the saddest thing about that is you were less yourself because of it. You took a part of what made you you, and you pushed it as deep as you could because you thought no one would want to see that. And because you did that, you actually gave those you love less of who you are. And that's not putting blame on you. That's actually just helping you realize that if they love you, showing more of that could only improve your relationship with those people. Family, friends, loved ones. Tough narrative. Any advice for me on a spending habit? It's an interesting one. I think the question is, how are you spending? For me, typically a lot of my money gets spent because of my philosophy is I never try and lose time with friends or family. And so we'll go out to restaurants or we'll go on a trip somewhere, and to make sure the occasion goes right and everyone's connected and included, I'll almost spare no expense. But are you shopping online for things? Are you buying things on an online marketplace? It could be as simple as removing your cards from your phone so you can't have that immediate purchasing power. But more importantly, chances are, because paychecks don't come, your account doesn't go up slowly like this, it comes up with a paycheck. And so probably you spend it, and then all of a sudden you reach the end of that and think, I need to control my spending. You have that thought, another paycheck comes in, and then you spend it, and you're on this little loop. And so what you need, actually, if you can check yourself, fantastic, but that's really tough to do. More importantly, and this isn't just for spending money, find a peer, find a companion, find someone you can confide in and talk about, and don't put weight on them, but just merely telling them what you're doing, what you're going through, and actually how you plan on fixing it. Merely vocalizing that to someone who you care about, who cares about you, will actually make you hold yourself to action. And even better, if they're a really good friend, they'll hold you to accountability as well. Like, for example, if you told your partner or loved one, or if you told your best friend, hey, we're not doing enough of this. I want to do more of this in my life. I need to see more of my old friends. I'm cutting them out of my life. This is a problem. You'd say lines like this. They would actively try and pull you out with the group. Cheers, John. They would actively try and pull you out with the group. Think of your best friend if you came to them, let's go back to anxiety, and you said, look, I struggle to go out in groups and I'm not seeing my old friends anymore, but I want to see them and I'm not sure how to do this. That best friend is going to go, right, I'm not just going to grab you by the collar and drag you into the middle of a bar with all our old friends, but I think we can find environments in which you would feel comfortable. I'm going to manufacture that. You're going to come along to these places and we're going to reconnect you and we're going to get you involved. Like, there's a lot of, we can't predict what an old friend will do, but I feel like, I say friend as well, a lot of us don't actually have a good friend like that. And you might think that, actually, who am I supposed to talk to? Well, some of us, if we don't have an old friend, we have a close family member. That's just as good. That's almost better. Brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers. Usually you'll find that close-knit group there is almost too close for you to actually, sometimes they are what's making you feel vulnerable, and that can be really tough. So I sometimes find a lot of people find you got in, fantastic. And cheers, John, you legend. Sorry, I sometimes find, for me personally as well, a person that I love to talk to about life and who I wanted to become and how I was going to go about me, was my grandpa, because he was a blood relative, someone who was, you'd say friend, but really close to me. And not so close that I've seen him every day. The hardest thing is if you expose yourself to a person you love, like a family member or a best friend, then you see them every single day. And the conversation may have happened, but then the emotional draining part of it is accepting that you're seeing this person that you've been so open with on a daily basis. That can be tough if it's your first time being so open. So sometimes a grandparent who loves you unconditionally and wants to listen and has time to listen can be the person who actually gets your thoughts and helps you. They're not going to have an agenda. They're in the final quarter of their life and they only want what's best for you. So sit down with grandma, who just thinks you're the most gorgeous boy and the best ray of light on the face of the planet. Hopefully. Tell her how you feel. And hopefully that gets you on top of your spending. You know what? I reckon grandma might have in fact, forget my solutions. Go talk to grandma. Tell her about your spending habit, and I reckon she'll have the best old wives' tales or solutions to help. Way better than mine. Alright. But we're getting back onto the same topic there of social media actually serving as a good thing in today's environment. I think it can be. I think we went through a period there, like 2014 to 2020, where social media was this sort of thing we were cautious about, an evil, sort of insidious thing creeping into our lives that people who had enough power or control or understanding would push away. But I think that during the pandemic, at least, when we were all locked into our homes, I think a lot of us actually discovered the beauty of social media. A lot of people used it to create a lot of widespread happiness and joy in the world. That's actually where I started painting live. I typically only had the stream open to my brothers at the time, but during the pandemic I thought, I've probably got other friends who would like to watch, so I'll just turn it on public, and if there's any of my old high school friends or Facebook friends who want to join in, they'll just be able to see it and they can jump in. But I left it on not just public, I left it on full public, like anyone can join. And that's when I realized it's not just about my bubble in terms of, hey, not just about my bubble in that, my brother, my best friend, my mum, my dad, actually the people you connect with, have a meaningful interaction with and help, can be anywhere in the world, and you need to actually allow permission for them to be able to join and be a part of whatever's going on. It actually caught me massively off guard. I actually got into painting, well, I think through university. I wasn't the same, and especially when I started painting during the pandemic, this wasn't so much to bring joy into the world as much as it was this endeavor for my sanity, that I needed a creative outlet, that I was doing painting because it helped me be me, and so it was a selfish outlet. It was when people started messaging saying, hey, I joined in, I was only supposed to be there for 10 minutes, I was there for 3 hours, or these sorts of things. This is way back. I realized, okay, the child in you that actually wanted to make the world a better place that thing that you like to do, that thing that makes you feel more like you, that thing that helps you maintain your sanity. Just like every quote, every movie, and everything you've ever seen, ever tried to tell you, of course that was the thing you needed to bring more of into the world to make it a better place. And now in hindsight, you look back at it and think, of course you were supposed, if you're good at painting, of course you should paint because that'll make people happy. But I always looked at it like, that's my little selfish pursuit, and yeah, I'll do it if I've got time. But really, if I want to make people happy, I don't know what I should do. So I just meandered along. But anyway, of course, the thing that's your calling, and by pursuing what makes you you, it's that Coach Carter thing, which I've said before, that when you let your own light shine, you unconsciously give other people permission to do the same, as they are liberated from their own fear. And I think that's the case. I think at the very least, even if paintings didn't bring joy to lives, even if paintings didn't vitalize the rooms they go in, didn't change the lives of those who see them, that's not the case. But imagine they didn't. Solely by doing it, like someone running, hiking, reading, getting passionate about chess, solely by doing it, you'd give other people permission to be themselves. So I reckon that's pretty special. My uncle loves chess. He's passionate about chess. He's got cerebral palsy. He's restricted to a wheelchair. He's 54, sorry. And his passion for chess is actually a beautiful thing. It's infectious. You know when you run into someone who's passionate, and after you've finished talking to them or watching them, you leave and you wonder to yourself, what am I passionate about? Could I be into something as much as he was into chess? Like, I would hope that while you're here with me, you could walk away from this and think, I wonder if I could be into something. As much as that crazy Kiwi guy seems to be into painting and producing something real and authentic through art, maybe I could, maybe you're into surfing, maybe you're a mechanic, I'm not sure, but the very thought that maybe you could make a difference, maybe you could have a meaningful impact, because we don't want to just live hedonistically, pursue pleasure, and then die. That's a narrative that sometimes you see come up, but no one actually wants that. People want to live for something with purpose, make a difference, and then die. If there's a hedonist element to it, fantastic. Let it be the cherry on top of the cake, but the flavor and the ingredients, the egg, the flour, the milk that makes the cake, I'm not sure what goes into a cake, so if that's the wrong ingredients, I'm sorry. Those ingredients, that's the difference you want to make. That's the people you want to touch and change. Like, I'd hate to sit there on your deathbed. Imagine being on your deathbed. I mean, on one hand, you may not be surrounded with loved ones. You may be the last one to go. But imagine sitting on the deathbed and knowing that you had the opportunity to change, alter, and improve lives. And you let it slip. Or you just chose not to. It wouldn't be the end of the world. You'd be gone momentarily, but I think at that moment you'd wish you had. And then all you've got to ask yourself is, why would I care about what the 85-year-old version of me would want? Why would I even be interested? I'm the 25-year-old version, I'm the 55-year-old version, I'm the 45-year-old version of me. I'm in the hot seat now, I'll do what I want. Well, maybe there's wisdom to the 85-year-old version of you. And maybe that person sitting there wishing you'd done that thing that you always should have done. I know he doesn't exist, or she doesn't exist right now. She's deep into the future if we're lucky. But wouldn't she want that for you? Wouldn't she, or he? I don't know. It's like, wouldn't it just be the greatest thing to have a conversation with your future self? And the only reason why you'd want that is you'd love that moment for them to give you permission to be who you wanted to be, or to do that thing you wanted to do. Permission to be yourself. And then when you look at that from the face value of it, why would you ever need your future self or anyone to give you permission to be yourself when you know innately that's what would mean the most? That's the one thing you should be doing. Oh yay, we're back on this one again. Yes, we are. For a second there, Taylor, I didn't know if you were talking about the yarn I was running off on or the painting. But it sounds like painting. Hope you're doing well, Taylor. Hedonism is not what it's wrapped up to be. You know, I had someone really important in my life once tell me, everything in moderation. And that includes moderation. And Taylor, this is a custom one. So yes, a lot of the paintings sell. Most of the paintings are commissions. I've got 4 now in my private collection. It was going to be 3, but I kept the elephant one because that turned out to be a scam. That was pretty funny. But he hasn't got back to me yet, the character from the scam. That's still ongoing. But this painting is actually for a lovely lady who, the story behind it is the dog you see in the picture. The dog's passed away, and the lady hasn't ordered the photo. One of her close friends has. One of her close friends says, "This shot has always meant so much to her. Can we turn it into paint so she can put the shot on her wall?" Because the actual photo itself isn't high enough quality to blow up on the wall, but if we turn it into paint, we can capture that moment that means so much to her, put it on her wall, and remind her of this love she had for her companion. It's a powerful thing. If you haven't had a dog, I don't like to say dog or pet, I like to say companion. If you haven't had a companion, it's harder for you to understand why someone would be so emotionally driven by their animal. And you sometimes hear people say, "Oh, that's so-and-so, yeah, they're nuts on animals, blah, blah, blah." But that's actually a healthy way to be. I think it was, I'm going to drop some philosophy on you here, Plato. I'm not sure if Plato was a vegetarian or not, but Plato talked about, there's a noisy truck. Cheers, guys. Plato talked about the perfect city and what would make the perfect city. And one of the things Plato said is the perfect city would be vegetarian. Now, I don't know if Plato was a vegetarian himself or not, but what he said was, if it was the perfect city, surely in that city, we wouldn't look into the eyes of something in which we saw our own humanity and then in that same city kill that thing. So this is less of an argument for veganism or vegetarianism or anything like this, but the point that Plato's making there is that inside of an animal you can look into its eyes and you can see your own humanity. You formulate this connection, you care. And why that's so significant is if you look at the likes of people who have companions like pets, whether it be a farmer with a cow, whether it be a person with their dog companion, whether it be a lady with a horse, they formulate this love, this connection, and they don't see this as it's a separate species, but they don't see it as subhuman. They see this thing as something that they're unequal with, that they're willing to die for, that they love so deeply that if there's a way to save it, they will take any means on the face of this planet to do so. There we have it. My dogs are my best friends. And this is really important because we land in this pool, and a few philosophers have talked about it in terms of being a speciesist, which is where we value our own species above all others. But those who actually have meaningful connections with animals They're less speciesist than anyone else because they have this deep love. Love for something that's not human, but alive. And that's something, that's a sign of a good person. If you don't like animals, it's a red flag, but it may not be the end for you. Typically, what can happen is when someone likes animals, that's the biggest green flag. For example, if you have let's go for a 2024 example, have a guy or girl over at your house. You've got a pet cat or dog. How much more are you going to trust that person when the dog comes running up and just wants scratches from this person, or just wants to hang out with them, or has a positive reaction towards them? You're going to be thinking, oh, they're an animal person. Clearly, big green flag. Clearly, good person. This is important. And like I say, it's not a deal breaker. Sometimes the most lovely people on the face of the planet get given a baby to hold, and the baby just starts crying. Or, for example, Shelby's sister and her dog and her sister's dog do not get along. Both lovely dogs, but they growl at each other. So sometimes there's just matchups that take a little longer, or they're bad matchups, and that's okay. I'll message you about a painting of my dog. What's the easiest place to message you on? Taylor, bunch of places. Any social media is totally fine. And you've also got the website and email, whatever works best for you. It's totally fine. But I'm excited to see your pictures. And who knows? Maybe we'll paint your dog, Taylor. We'll see. That's going to be wiped through there. We've got a little bit overexcited with some of those strokes. You see I've pulled the nose across a little bit, and I haven't actually stopped. I've got to go a little bit further than I thought. If we don't do this, it's going to come out looking more like a pug than a border collie, so we've got no choice. We've got no choice. But anyway, plan's quite simple today as well. We've got dinner at Shelby's parents' place tonight. Shelby's found a new home for her horse, so she won't be riding that. It's a lovely horse. Wilson, but Wilson's got a new place to live. So there we go. But we've still got the dog. The dog doesn't live with us here, it's not allowed to. But we'll see. It's been a while since we've done a painting set with Barnaby. You can see the dog. It should be pretty obvious for the dog if you know a dog's going to be here, because you'll be like, oh, nose, face thingy. But actually, it wants to be more ambiguous. The whole thing wants to have that ambiguity in it. So you can spot it if you know what you're looking for, but otherwise you miss it. That what would you call that? That pre-knowledge, or that needing to know what the picture is, or needing to have that connection to what you're dealing with to understand the picture. That's a beautiful thing. It's like this cryptic key that you have to understand the picture. And it sort of makes the work, in a funny way, just a little bit more personal. It's like saying, if you have this emotional knowledge, you'll see what I see in this picture. But without it, you'll miss it. And there is an element to that that's gatekeeping, definitely, but there's also this beautiful element to it, which is, what's that song? Place that only we know. A place that only we know. The philosophy behind that song is a philosophy in an ambiguous piece of artwork. Perfect. We'll talk soon, Taylor. And cheers, Mike. It's funny actually. ASMR is quite a new field of exploration. They're doing a lot of scientific tests on it. They don't understand why certain noises, when put in perfect quality in front of a human, give us so much pleasure. It's confusing, but they understand that they do, and there's a word for it. I was watching some talks on it, but I think it's nice. It's stimulating one of our senses to a level we don't normally get. And usually it's with sounds we may not always hear. I mean, one of the weirdest ASMRs I've ever ran into was, I'm going to throw her under the bus here, but Shelby Cooper. She likes to listen to the sounds of an aeroplane cabin to go to sleep. And this blows my mind. I go into airplane cabins and I can't wait to leave them. But she loves travel so much and moving around the world so much that the sound of actually going on a new journey relaxes her. And I would have thought waterfall, whale noises, maybe, I don't know, rainforest, airplane cabin. But apparently it's much more popular than I've given it credit for. A lot of people like to hear an airplane cabin. So basically, long story short, Seb doesn't know what he's talking about. Airplane cabin's great ASMR, and life goes on. Great to know. And who's that there? Henderson. Henderson. Firstly, I want you to know that I appreciate you, Henderson. But secondly, Henderson, if you want to do me the most justice you can do, serve yourself, make yourself truly happy, find out what really spins your wheels and brings joy to your life, and go do that. And on the process of doing that, because it's not about just getting there and stopping, on the process of doing that, you're going to make so many people happy and make the world such a better place that you'll realise that all that matters is the pursuit of that thing you're going after. That's one thing I like about the idea of children, though, in that the beautiful thing about children is the idea that you do just want to make them as happy as they can possibly be. Children, grandchildren, nephews, it's like you formulate this agreement to say that, right, I'm going to spend the rest of my life making yours everything it can be. I'll do my best to do that. That is a premise. That's probably growing up, taking responsibility in some way, and not just for your own children, like I say, for any youth that you think, I want to enrich your life. I think we all reach that at different stages, but I think we certainly see the most, I think we see or respect or feel like the highest form of being an adult or being a role model of someone we'd look up to and respect would be a person who actually lives solely for others, the Mother Teresa. And I think we're formulating other ways of living now today. We're saying, oh, you can do it like this and live your own life like this. You can, but I think innately we still feel like the thing or the person that we'd respect or would matter the most would be that person who lived for everyone else around them. Yeah. I don't see as many Mother Teresas these days. I feel like Mother Teresa's out of fashion, which is weird to say because that idea or everything she stood for or who she was should never go out of fashion. In the same way, I don't think we'd see, who was a South African gentleman? Nelson Mandela. I don't think as many people as previously did worship or respect or look up to the characters of his style as we used to. Is that even fair to say that? Or is it just the case that there's more heroes out there and more ways to live your life that we've been exposed to, and therefore people are choosing more methods due to the larger spectrum of choice rather than actually... I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it's the end of the world. Sure, been recognised as an adult for myself at times. Yeah, fair enough. And cheers, Mike. I'm doing good, Eva Derrison. Good to have you here. Does it ever bother you? Look, I think if you have a look, Tracy, yes, indeed. I think we're on a live platform. And live platforms get wild. But I think live is the only way to truly connect with people, formulate authentic connections with people everywhere around the world. I don't see any other way currently in reality where someone in the US, Europe, Germany, New Zealand, let's just say Europe, US, Japan, Singapore, China, New Zealand, Australia, Antarctica, where everyone can suddenly connect at the same time and be together in a space that's wholesome and wholesome, creative, inspirational, all the things. This is the best way to do it. Now, if that means the occasional person pops on and cracks a joke about my legs being short and my torso being long, which it is, or I don't know, my hair's going everywhere, doesn't matter. If we get the occasional joke in here, that is a small price to pay for the value we get from connecting on a live platform like this. In fact, it's so small to even acknowledge it as a thing would be an insult to the joy and positivity that live streaming can actually create. Cheers, Mike. It's been a while, actually. Art lessons, how long ago were they? I think the last time I actually gave someone tutoring in art lessons was 8 months ago now, which is actually selfish of me. I got buried in my own work much more, and I feel like I justify it because I spend a lot of time on social media trying to give what I can, but there's definitely an element of one-on-one connection and tutoring style that I haven't been doing. So maybe the time is due to open that back up, because that does allow for deeper interpersonal connections. Yeah, true, Hoodie. True. When I was a kid, talking on your phone around the world was considered sci-fi. That is absolutely... When my father was younger, they said one day, they had those old school phones where you'd call the directory and then they'd tell you where to go through to, etc. It's a fantastic mug, Cindy. One of my favourites. When you go to the old school directory and they'd say, who are you trying to call? And other people would be on the line and all that sort of stuff. They said, one day, you'll be able to see the person that you're talking to. And the kids used to laugh. You know when you believe it a little bit, when we were believing in sci-fi and we'd go, oh, really? Well, these kids at the age of 6 to 10 would laugh at the idea and say, you're silly, you're funny. And yet now we feel aggrieved when the person we're talking to isn't the exact crisp definition and there's the occasional break in the line. We sit there and get frustrated. We're like, oh, hold on. I'll walk to a different part of the house. Is it now better? Is it now better? Oh my God, I can't believe this. Spark is the worst. You know, and it's funny how in 50 years we can go from something being impossibly humorous in the most amazing world of sci-fi and so incredible to being an expectation or a right because you paid $20 a month. Like that in itself is so out there and bizarre, but at the same time so beautiful. I mean, I know our expectations have soared in what we expect from these platforms, but actually, what's cool about it is one of the expectations that's come into fruition, like I was yarning about at the start of this, was suddenly we now expect. For example, when I was primary school and high school, we thought there would be outcasts, and we thought there would be losers and winners, and you were in these categories. And a lot of people were in a category by themselves. You're on your own. You'll always be on your own. But now in 2024, there's this expectation, not just a possibility, but an expectation that every person has a community of people who think and love and want to be like them. And the beauty of that is, if you told me, or my classroom of us at an all-boys school, if you told a classroom of us 13-year-olds that every single one of you was going to find a community of people who actually love and cherish every aspect of your personality, or will think like you in certain ways, or, it's not just going to be about a sport or the sports captains or good grades. There's more things to life, and you'll find these communities. We would have laughed at you. No, it's not. Us drama kids were happy to accept that there was only 5 of us or so who were, quite serious about drama in a school of 1,400 boys. We were happy with that. That's the reality of the world. If you had told us that right now you could connect with hundreds of thousands of other people the similar age to you who are as into drama as you are, nah, we would have laughed at you. Impossible, not happening. And yet now, that's not just an impossibility, that's happening right in front of our eyes. Yes, you knew your best friend's number? That was the greatest thing ever. And if you really cared about your high school girlfriend, you knew her number off by heart too. You'd get in trouble if you didn't. Farrelly, this subject matter, this is a dog and a person. So there's an eye up here, the dog's across here, and this is all here, matted in these big fun lines from the sea. So that's what we're capturing here. Yeah. See, Tamara Boys College, that was a school I went to. It had its fair share of this and that, but the girls' college, our sister college, I've heard some stories from there, and I think, you know what? All boys wasn't all that bad. You're all good. And in fact, without the little keystone, the knowledge of what it actually looks like, of the woman and the dog, it would be impossible to see. So I'll show you that. And now that I've shown you that, it suddenly unlocks the picture for you. Without it, it was always going to be this mass of weird, disjointed paint strokes. And there is a beauty to that. There's a beauty in that secrecy. And when we started this work, there were people who were saying, oh, that's going to be tough. You're not going to be able to paint that, or that's, you're going to really struggle to make that look good. And it's interesting now that we've got a work that actually does work on a keystone. That actually has a very, very unique element. Something we'll pursue again, I reckon. Something we'll pursue again. Oh, gotcha. So that's interesting you say that, because our colleges, and we call things slightly differently. So when we say college here in New Zealand, we're meaning 13 to 18 years old. And when you say college, you're meaning university. So we're both correct, but just in different ways. So we think about, New Zealand's just a bit back to front on that front. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Let me go up here. Here we are. Beautiful. All right, team. I am not going to dash off on you completely. Give me just a moment. I'm going to make myself a coffee, but I haven't got any beans ground yet, so I need to grind small beans, which is definitely going to take beyond the thing that'll make the stream inactive. So I'm going to pause the stream, and after it's been paused, I will come on back and unpause it this time rather than let it cancel. So be back in a few minutes, guys, and think oranges, think reds, think oranges, reds, and see the Naples yellow in there. Imagine orange with white in it, so it's going to have more of a reddish tinge to the Naples, just to build out that. Because you see, we've got the effect of depth in here. That's the blues. The blues play that role wonderfully, but we want that sun-kissed warmth, especially up through here, coming out of this character. We want to see the beauty in the blues and those darker hues through here, but I want a warm, sun-kissed, sun-stroked here through here. That's what we're after. So, I'll be back shortly, but if I can figure out how to do the thing. Gymnasium? Yeah, we got a, I think that's the same term we use, but pause live. All right. Alright. I made it back just in time. I've got the hang of this now. You've got to come back before the time runs out or it's all over, Red Rover. I've learnt the ways. Right. Righty tighty tighty tighty. Now I haven't actually got orange. It's like Dr. Evil. Orange. So we're going to use some primary yellow and a little bit of... Yeah, this red here is the one we're after. Trying to make orange. Not that it matters, but if you're after orange, typically try and go for 1 part red to 4 parts yellow, and then add more red as you see fit. Don't go half and half. This is a trick. This is a trick. It'll be way too deep. It'll be not what you were after. And there we go. Beautiful. Alright. Alright, we are back. Random, but can I burp on command? I cannot. I never could in primary school either, where everyone was doing that and I felt really left out. Here's our new mug. This is actually Shelby's mug, but I'm a big fan. I haven't played Pokemon for 15 years, but I've got a real soft spot for, if you've ever played it, the old Color Game Boys. I'm talking to the old school first ones. I don't like the DS's, I don't like the advanced, I don't like the Switch or whatever this new stuff is. I just like that old school one where if you didn't save your game, you lost everything. And yellow, red, and blue. So yellow was okay, but you had to have Pikachu, and I was kind of like a Blastoise kind of a guy. I like Blastoise. Blastoise was my boy. I'll show you this up close here. That's just the red on the paintbrush. See how it just takes over the yellow? And that's the orange we're after. Basically, if you're not a painter, it doesn't really matter, but just know that yellow is the weakest color, weakest pigment. And so typically this means that you just need to use more of it to make it show up and not make it mix with other colors when you're trying to actually make it blossom. And when you're collecting artwork too, always have a look at how they've used the yellow. Have they shown like a really good element control over the color in terms of allowed it to pop? Usually a lot of people will use yellows like I use them, where you just avoid a lot of the yellows altogether and involve Naples yellow for the soft warm undertone to come through. Some people leap haphazardly into those primary yellows and yellow light hues. You'll know if that's the case because you'll look at the yellow and it will seem like it's off, or like as if it's a tacky color. You'll like the blues and the reds and all the hues surrounding them, but you'll look at the yellows and you'll think, that's not my bag. Why don't I like the yellows in this picture? Probably because I've had to overdo them or attach them weirdly because I'll get dominated by the other colors, and because of that they're full of flat, kitsch and tacky. So if you're going to incorporate yellows, be careful. And if you're going to buy yellow artwork, be careful. And if you're thinking, I don't know what he's talking about, but I want to buy some artwork, just send me a picture of it, like a good quality picture with the correct colors on it, like not from a phone. I need a good quality picture. Send that. I mean, a phone might work today, but send me through a picture and I can tell you, I'll be like, yep, that's spot on. You're on the right track. That is a masterpiece. Or still great, but yellows could use some work. Could use some work. I don't believe this voice is real. Well, that's just definitely someone who has never been to New Zealand. The best place you can go, though, if you don't believe the voice is real, is go to Flight of the Conchords. They're a New Zealand band who made a movie about going to America, and they've got an accent like this. because they're Kiwis, which is fun. Cheers, Matt. Appreciate you, mate. Imagine all the people living in the world agree. There will be an answer, let it be. Don't. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. Don't. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing there in front of me. There will be an answer, let it be. Cheers, Badger. Welcome on in, unless you were here at the start. There will be an answer. God, the Beatles are good. There's that movie called Yesterday, where in that movie, it's basically a guy is okay on guitar, he gets fired off into another universe, and in this universe is exactly the same, except they've never heard of the Beatles and Oasis, because the Oasis were inspired by the Beatles. And, fun fact, and basically he just reproduces their songs, and it's a comment on if was it the Beatles and their fame that made them famous, or was it the songs themselves that made them famous? And in this case here, it argues that actually the songs are timeless with or without the creator of the song. So if we'd never heard the Beatles before and we heard Let It Be, we'd still be emotionally attached to the song, and it would be meaningful for us because it would strike strings in our heart, basically. And that is a concept is interesting, because stories do cause us to love things. And so the question is, did stories make us love the Beatles? Or did the songs themselves just strike our heart chords? And honestly, it's not about finding an answer to that question. It's about asking the question. It's like when you've got a friend who's completely different from you, and you wonder, are we friends because we're friends, or are we friends because we got a lot of history? Or are we friends because both? All of which are good answers. Or, more importantly, all of which don't even need answers. That's important. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing there in front of me. There will be an answer, let it be. Don't. When the people living in the world agree. So now we're talking about those strokes I was mentioning at the start, where we can get a bit more brash with where we want them to go. We can start to do those curls that are directly at ends with the rest of the strokes of paint, curling around in different places, to sort of create that matted look in the hair. That's the plan. It's a good plan. It's a very good plan. Key thing too is not to recognise hair as a whole bunch of individual strands that make up a picture, but actually hair is this wonderful thing with so many different tones and contours and moments in it. And if you suddenly think you're going to just draw a large clump as hair, you end up with either a haystack or you end up with a big helmet, and you wonder why your hair never looks good. And it's that classic thing the artists get themselves into a position where they actually stop seeing it as hair and as a person and as this and as that. And spot shapes and tones and moments and build it up. It's not enough to say that, oh, the person's got blonde hair, let's draw blonde hair. it's enough to say that each individual blonde hair in this particular lighting has been caught in specific ways that are encouraging this outcome and that outcome, and that is part of its innate beauty. Yeah. When the people living in the world agree, there will be an answer. Let it be. Don't. When the people don't. La da dee da doo dee da. Lip bim bim ba doo doo. Sorry, team. Just singing away on my own accord here. A bit more of that red. Let's get deeper with that colour. There we go. Not to the brown completely, but this colour here is going to be more of a match to that cerulean blue that we've got lingering and around a few places. So everywhere where that cerulean blue's hanging out all by itself currently, this red's going to come in and say, hey, I'm your teammate, I'll team up with you. And that'll make them both actually accentuate those features we want just a little bit more. When the people living in the world agree, there will be an answer. Yeah, I think the Beatles song would go off anyway. Because I don't actually know the Beatles. They weren't on the radio when I was younger. But I hear them now and I love them. Does that count? Or did the influence they had on my parents and things influence me? Will we be able to know? Is there a way to know? Probably not. It'll probably forever remain a mystery. Possibly. Living in the world agree. There will be an answer. Let it be. Let's grab. Here we go. For the most dangerous of all the colours that exist. The most dangerous. Oh, and now it's on my nose. 1 second. Alright. That definitely gives it away. We now know what the colour is. Carbon black. A little bit of a medium through it that'll make it spread easier, dry faster. Here we go. So what was carbon black is now more of a bit of a Mars black, and we're going to use this to highlight a few details that we want to stand out. So right up here next to the dog's eye, that's going to be around here, coming on down here. There's these little moments that we want to capture and push back. Define and push back. That's what we're after. It's like modern day Shakespeare sounds different to how Shakespeare would have spoken. Yeah, but that's part of the fun too. Imagine like covers of old songs. Like when we hear a cover, it's still fun. It's still pretty special, right? So I'm certainly not saying that certainly not saying that even though Shakespeare's changed today, that it's not some new unique kind of art. It's different, but it's also new and unique, and that's part of the fun. You could do old school Shakespeare, but old school Shakespeare meant a lot to the old school, and in a history sense, that's fantastic. Let's pursue it. But in a let's provide more of that emotion or intensity that Shakespeare actually stood for, or the stories. How can we make these stories appealing to people in 2024? Maybe a slight tweak does happen. And maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe. Hello, Anthony. Welcome on in. There will be an answer. Let it be here. When the people hanging round, living in the world agree, there will be an answer. Let it be here. La-ba-doo, la-dee-ba-da. Lip-on-do-de-da-da. Here we are. Lovely. Lovely. Alright, where are we going to go next? We'll actually pause there, squad. I think we're in an interesting spot. I like where we're at. I need to let it sit for a little bit. My initial instinct was to say blues, but actually there's a few shades of blue already through there, and the reds are already powerful with the oranges. There's that sun-kissed nature to it. Probably more. Yeah, actually, I know what needs to happen. Those red dollops that I've put on there, the black dollops, need to dry now. And the next step is to come in here with some very smooth washes of these golden summery tones to actually add this fluid motion to some of these lonely sort of strikes at the moment. But what I'll do before I do that is I'll just put down my brush. And bring you on up into here. Here we go. Okay, let's bring you nice and close. So this is the work at its current state. You can see what I was talking about by that blue actually dominating most of the image. And we can see the dog's face here looking lovely at the moment. And it's got its eyes closed and it's enjoying the snuggle from his owner. But the owner right now is dictated by only one thing, which is incredibly subtle. If we come up here to the eye, and you can see it's actually still wild. That eye is loose, wild paint. That's how we want it. And only if I tell you this is an eye with a brow, do you suddenly think, I gotcha. And then this part through here, love it, wild, combination of summery sun and a combination of the blues and the dog. The continuity of the ultramarine through both sides shows that actual connection between her and her dog. But I did leave a lot of that red, orange and yellows that appear in her off the dog itself and just kept them on her. Although you can see these thick lobs. See this one here? This is a big lob, that one there. If I go over it with a thin transparent tone now, it's going to just erupt and unleash red everywhere when I want it concentrated to that one point. Cheers, Pilot Pete. And Isaac, it'll look like oils, but I'm actually using acrylic paints outside here at the moment. So these acrylic paints, there's plenty of ventilation, which is, most wonderful thing ever. Technically, we've got one wall behind us here, but everywhere else is ventilated and exposed. And then quick dry mediums, a few little things inside it which extends it and makes it look and dry like oils, which is lovely. But most of the work I do in the studio is gouache paint. That's different again. But anyway, we'll pause there, let that part dry, and then we'll come on back with some big, thick splatters of very, very transparent layers to finish off the last little touch here. It's been pretty fun. How it was layering so well. You can do the same effect with oils, but you have to mix mediums in. You can't just do it raw. Raw oils are like putty or butter that actually push around each other and like sometimes mix but struggle a wee bit. You can add all sorts of stuff in to help you. One good way to layer oils, an easy solution. We're getting into the nitty gritty of how to make art at the moment, but an easy solution is to use, I forget its name, Liquin by Liquitex. That stuff works fantastic. It'll be a quick dry solution and it makes it work in glaze form in thin coats, but that stuff is nasty on the sinuses. So outside, mask on. That's what I'd say. Anyway, guys, been absolutely lovely. It's been a joy painting with you today. I'm off to do a bit of cleaning and to get ready for dinner with my partner's parents. Cheers, guys. Bye now. Cheers, Jay.